Welcome to Sabzi Life.
Conscious living with a twist.
My name's Faizan Sabzi.
And I'm Dr. Saira. I'm a therapist.
And I am a technology consultant and a coach, life coach in training at this moment. We're excited to be back in a podcast. We've been so busy not doing much, I guess.
So busy relaxing.
Yeah.
We've been really, really busy relaxing.
Yeah.
In our new, beautiful home that feels like we're on holidays every single day. So yeah, when we have downtime, we're just like reading, or I'm doing a lot of coloring, cooking meals, and basically watching Netflix. Lots of relaxing going on. Yeah. So we're going to keep relaxing, but we're also going to restart the podcast.
Yeah, I think there's this sense of recharge. Right, I think last year, with 2020 being full of COVID stories, where a lot of people made changes. Some people, we made some significant changes in our lifestyle and kind of deciding really what's important for us,
our priorities,
and actually going after those priorities, and taking that time to relax, and now kind of stepping out in the world, I guess. And this is one of those things that we haven't really done, is record a podcast in a long time. We kind of went live.
We tried once,
yeah.
And then we didn't try again.
Yeah, we're like, we like relaxing stuff.
Yeah, relaxing feels good. So what we're going to do is what we've always done. We're going to relax here on our couch, and we're going to chat, and you can listen. And we don't even really have a topic. We just wanted to get back on it and connect with you and connect with each other.
We don't have a topic, but I do want to talk about this recharge and then stepping back and kind of with this excitement, right? Like one thing we say that we've been relaxing, but I believe we've been setting some intentions, right? And some of the things that we're doing is, you're right now at this moment, we're recording this on Sunday, February 15th. Today was day 9 of your 21-day meditation challenge. We've just completed second week of the 4-week course with the couples, love talks. And so there are things that we're doing, and we're kind of stepping out into the world because we've set that intention.
But I think it feels like we've been putting down roots, right? Yeah. So it's almost like there's these seeds that we planted some time ago, and finally the roots started going down, and it feels like on the surface nothing is happening, right? On the surface there's just dirt, but under the dirt, what's been going on, like deep inside of ourselves, in our relationship, in our family, how we're managing our kids, all of that I feel like has been rooting us. And now, not quite yet, but pretty soon the plant is going to start showing, right? And so I think that's really important, because sometimes when nothing is happening, or things feel just a bit too easy, or you're not moving forward towards your goals, it can feel like, hey, what the hell, nothing is happening. But if we think about it as roots going down, well, then you can give yourself that time, right? To just rest, rejuvenate, recharge, and put down your roots. Oh, look at all those R's.
Yeah.
I'm a poet, man. I'm a poet.
I'm glad you know that about yourself. So from a roots perspective, so tell me about that, because there is this sense of avoidance versus an intentional grounding, right? Because what it feels like, and I think there is this, and I have this problem of, if I'm not actively doing something, I'm not doing anything.
Right.
Like the activeness of the work, right? And so from a work perspective, what does it mean about laying roots, and how do you differentiate between that and avoidance?
So that's a really important question. And the easiest way to think about it is, when you're laying roots, you're feeling closer to yourself. And when you're avoiding, you're numbing out. You're escaping yourself, right? So for example, yesterday we watched a movie, right? It was Valentine's Day. Our kids made us this sweet little picnic in our living room, and candles, and they lit like 14 candles. It was the cutest thing. Chicken wings and zucchini was the dinner, but that's okay. It was delicious and it was cute. And we were watching this movie, and it was finally after a long time that we actually sat down intentionally to watch a movie together, right? We weren't on our phones, we weren't doing work on the side, we were just there enjoying the movie. And that to me is putting down roots, right? Because that's us spending time together. When we're just mindlessly watching our shows in the background as we're doing other things, and that becomes numbing out and avoiding. So you can be doing the exact same thing, but it's the energy with which we do it. I think that makes the difference between, is this putting down, and right in the middle of it, you can ask yourself the question, right? What am I doing right now? Is this activity moving me closer to myself, or is this activity actually helping me escape from myself? And usually we escape from ourselves because there's too much going on in our mind and we don't want to face what's there.
Yeah. And I think that's been a personal challenge. One of the things that our neighbors in this small town that we've moved to, sometimes when we see each other, they're like, well, are you enjoying yourself here? And I think the last time we met, I told them, I know my lifestyle or this town, like the physical life has slowed down, but my mental noise hasn't caught up. Right? Like my brain hasn't caught up to the stillness. And I find
I need to do my morning meditation.
I have been doing, well,
instead of being technical support.
I've been sitting there and trying to do the meditation, and stillness is something I struggle with. And so in any case, what I was saying was, like, from a grounding perspective, I believe where I've struggled, and I think it's changed in the last few weeks, is this piece about, okay, I am numbing out. What are my intentions?
Right.
And, the intentions, the good intentions, the quote unquote good intentions we changed our lifestyle for. It's like, it's recognizing, okay, I'm kind of falling back into the same patterns.
Right. And sometimes the intention can simply be, I want to rest.
Yeah.
Right? That can be an intention.
Yeah.
Rather than and I notice this happens with me sometimes, is like I have a day off, but I fill it up with things because I feel guilty to just rest. But we need to rest.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise we're like, go, and then we crash. So if we're intentional about rest, maybe we can, protect our health as well, if you think about it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I know that's been a learning for me for the last few days or few weeks, has been kind of focus on, what am I doing? Right? What am I doing in each moment?
Right.
Am I, and part of it turned out to be, what am I mindlessly watching? Sometimes, even in the background noise. Even it could be something in the noise, like I'm actively watching something, but is that actually serving me?
Right.
In that moment.
So here's the thing, right? Like, I use references to television shows and movies all the time with my clients. I think anything that we absorb can be meaningful and useful. It's like we have to make sense of it, right? So I'll give you an example. Gossip Girl. Remember Gossip Girl? It's this show that is just like so gossip. I mean, the name gives it away, right? Like, it is just a dumb show. But I watched that show and I thought, you know what? Let me get into the minds of these kids who are so rich that they don't even know what to do with their money. And I started seeing it from like a mental health perspective, and from a loneliness perspective, and from a, looking for meaning and purpose. If your goal is not to make money, then what are you spending your time doing? That was a new way of thinking about things for me, right? Because my whole life, it's been about, coming from an immigrant background, it's like survival. Right? So if survival wasn't an issue, let me learn from Gossip Girl what these rich kids do, right? And so even those decisions can be done mindfully and with intention, even though it might not look like, sitting and meditating in the proper yoga pose. It looks like me sitting, eating popcorn on the couch, but even that can be intentional.
So you would be okay with me watching some of my sports talk show if I could just make some fluff meaning for you?
Not fluff meaning for me, actual meaning for yourself. And then be able to articulate that meaning to me. Right. Absolutely. I give you full permission.
Not that I need permission, but okay. So let's talk about some of the... Where does that guilt come from for us when we're trying to relax?
I think it comes from childhood. I think that adults have a hard time with letting kids just play once they get to a certain age. We're noticing that with our son, right? That he's 11 now. And so when he's just what to us looks like doing nothing, we want to get him to unload the dishwasher, or we want to get him to go have a shower, or what. Oh my gosh, that stinky boy, poor guy. He's entering that zone.
He's my son. He will stink it up for a while.
But we kind of want to pull him out of just pleasure and get him to do something. And I think it starts when we're kids, because up until a certain age, we're just allowed to play and enjoy ourselves. And then suddenly, and some of us aren't. Actually, some of us never got that opportunity to just be playful. And, you know, we got this responsibility at a very young age. And you know, I was actually talking about this in my women's group, that we have this thing where we feel like we're being... or not in the couples group, we feel like we're being a pain or a bother when we ask someone for help, right? And that comes from, often for many of us, again, a certain age in childhood where suddenly you realize that your parents didn't really want to tuck you in. They didn't have the energy for that, or they, you know, making dinner was a chore for them, or what. You start sensing these things, right? That they're not loving and enjoying this parenting thing. And so what you do as a child is then you stop asking, right? You minimize your expectations of parents and you do things yourself. And so then as an adult, you learn, like, you know, as the years go by, it's like, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to inconvenience them because I don't want to stress them out. I want my parents to be happy. And again, we're seeing this with our kids and the way that they're relating to us, in that, you know, my daughter, oh, it's okay. You don't need to tuck me in. And I know that's because she's trying to give me some time to myself, but I also know that she has a need that she doesn't want to articulate to me anymore because I don't really want to do that in that moment. So it's a really sticky space, and I think it comes from when we were very young and what we learned in our families.
Yeah.
As everything, you know, I'm a therapist, so that's our training, that everything comes from something before.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting piece, right? And I believe you gave a talk somewhere recently where you talked about, I tried to, you know, kind of having that coaching mindset. Okay, how do I take it back to work, right? How do I show up at work? And some of our leaders, right, when they're not able to kind of, the relaxation is really part of that self-care, right? Yeah. When they're not modeling self-care, then that's what we're expecting, or even quietly, we might be
unconsciously.
Verbally, we might be saying we care about your mental health, but when I don't model it, right, and just like kids do with their adults, like, so any leader within our organizations, any organization, voluntary or for profit, doesn't matter, is that there's going to be this expectation that gets set.
Brene Brown talks about that in one of her books. I can't remember which one, but she talks about how her staff came to her and, you know, they rumbled with her. She uses that word. They rumbled with her over this, that, you know, you never take breaks. And so when we take breaks, we feel like we're being judged, or, you know, that we're not as capable as you or competent as you. And she had no idea that she was sending that message because she's just so passionate about her work. But she realized that passion, there's a limit, right? You can't, if you're a leader and others are watching you, you also have a responsibility to them to model what you want them to be doing. You can't just tell them to take time off and then you never do.
Right.
It's a different way of seeing things, right? Because that's how we were trained, is that the boss has to work the hardest. That's how I was trained. Isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, there is this belief, right? Like, hey, it's your business. I mean, whether it is or not, like, if you have a responsibility, you own it. And so you're going to be the hardest working. Right. You can't expect your subordinates, employees to be as hardworking as you. Like, that's just, and it's ingrained, and that's not true, obviously. Right?
But it's how we've been taught.
It's how we've been taught. And I think there is this, this ingrained belief, right? And again, and I've been in those leadership positions, and I know I've set bad models. I've also set good models of how we're going to show up, not just at work, and, you know, how we're going to care about our families and making sure that those things are in place. But it's so easy to kind of fall back, and that's that's a pattern that I'm working with. It's so easy to fall back into the guilt of not doing enough.
The guilt. So the guilt.
So that to me is for relaxation.
Here's the thing, Faizan. If you have the guilt of not doing enough, the seed of that is you're not enough.
Oh yeah, no, that's a belief system. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Is that I am not enough. I can't do enough. I can't work enough. I'm never good enough. It's I am not enough. And one of the things that I've been studying this one thing from the Bible. This Psalm 23, I think it is, about like, though I walk through the valley, that one.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord is my shepherd. And one of the things that she talked about, so we were listening to Iyanla Van Zandt kind of explain the metaphysical explanations to this psalm, a psalm for all seasons, it's called. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And why was I even talking about this? There was a reason. What were you saying?
Guilt of not being enough.
Right. So she said, like, when you say, I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever, the idea, so the way that she described that is like, if the truth of who we are is inside of us, then it's not going anywhere. And she said, if you are the light, if you are perfection, at your essence, well, that's already complete. There's nothing to add to that. You don't have to do something to be complete. You're already complete from a spiritual perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think when we're like, I'm not enough, that's not a spiritual perspective. That's our ego. That's our personality. Of course, that's comparing ourselves to other people and saying, well, they're doing this and they're doing that. I'm not enough, or I'm not doing enough. But, if you are a mango tree, then be a freaking mango tree. Stop trying to be an apple tree. Right? Be the mango tree. If that's what you grew into, if that's what your soul and your spirit's calling is and your purpose, then just be the best mango tree that you can be. Right? Rather than trying to always be an apple tree or, a grape vine or something else, an oak. Those are all different trees. So I think that's the piece is we only say we're not good enough if we forget that we already are. Who's the I? When you say I am not good enough, who's the I? Well,
absolutely. I think there's a whole spiritual concept.
I'm pushing you on this because it was a breakthrough for me when I got
absolutely,
it. Right?
Absolutely. And I think there's this whole spiritual concept of who is this I that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. I'm going to kind of not go there for now.
But Faizan,
I know it's important.
I love going there.
Yeah, I know you do. But for now, there's this concept, right? And I've had these aha moments, so it's not something new, yet it's always new when it's like the reminder comes,
yeah.
Right? Is that the feeling of I'm not doing enough, I feel like that judgment is coming from the outside.
Right. Because there's a story that
absolutely,
you don't have to work hard in this life to get what you want.
Well, there's that, but it's also like, my boss is going to think I'm not doing enough. Mm-hmm. My wife's going to think I'm not doing enough. My kids think I'm not doing enough. Right? Like, so when I'm sitting down and actually relaxing, these are the thoughts that I'm fighting with, right? But nobody said that.
Right? It's in your mind.
Right? Nobody said that. And it's a lot of the self-talk and self-judgment. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things in the couples group that we did last week, the first week, was talking about impeccable, right? Being impeccable with our words. And that was by a book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, who talks about, the first agreement was being impeccable with our words. Mm-hmm. And when we laid it out for our group, saying, hey, let's be impeccable with our words with each other. Mm-hmm. During the week, where, again, it hit me, like, of course, right? Of course, is I think I was 90% successful with the external, right? Being impeccable with my words, with other people. Mm-hmm. But that self-talk, maybe 40%, maybe if I'm being generous with myself.
And so what was the unimpeccability? What were you doing that was, not good when you were talking to yourself?
Well, just like, God, like, really? You're just going to sit here?
So the critical voice.
Yeah, very critical voice, right? Like, you could be, I know you're sitting here, but you could put together that list that needs to be put together for work. Right?
We call that the scolding parent.
Like, that
critical parent.
That shower door that's just been sitting there that we still hasn't been put in.
Oh, geez, that shower door. Since August.
But
we don't know how to put it in.
But
any listeners out there who know how to install a shower door, let us know your rate, because we need a shower door installed.
But whether it's just looking for somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
Just identify a person who could do it.
I know I'm not going to do it. So just looking for somebody. Right? Like, I could be doing so much, like, again, like that thought of, like, oh, really? Like, when are you going to get your act?
And so this morning, right, I organized my makeup. And so when we've moved to this new house, and there's all of these things that need to get done. And I think by just completing the task, it's like that thing's not pulling at you anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And so maybe it's just about, when you have the energy to do it, just do the task. Because I think there's also a right timing for things. Right? Sometimes you have the energy and you do your laundry and you and sometimes you just want to sit. Of course. That's okay.
And again, none of this matters. Right? At the end of the day, the door getting put on or not, it's not stopping anybody from taking a shower. Like, it's not doing anything. Right? But it's just like, it's this self pattern for me. And this was the recognition, right? Is that I find stuff to beat myself up. So when I'm relaxing, and it's hard, right? And then so what I do is I try to avoid relaxing. So I go into that numbing space because I don't want to have those thoughts. And so so I think there are conversations to be had there, and to say, okay, what are the patterns? What am I trying to avoid by relaxing and by grounding? Is all of these thoughts that come up, say, because it's okay anyways.
And I'm going to go back to our spirituality, right? The
Go
Lord
back. I can't
is
stop
my
you.
shepherd.
I can't stop
The Lord is my shepherd, which means that there's this other part, this higher part, that's the shepherd. What's a sheep? A sheep is just they're wonderful animals. Thank you for your cotton and your wool. But they're sheep, and they're scattered, and they're running around, and that's like our thoughts. And the shepherd is that part of ourself, that spiritual part of ourself, that's able to kind of corral the sheep, right? Can't just pretend the sheep aren't there. They're there, and they're running everywhere, and they're getting lost in the ravine, and they're jumping off the mountain, and we need to get them all together, right? I think that he's laughing. You can't hear him, but yeah, he's laughing at me. But that's it, right? It's like, and this, what I learned about the Psalms, is that they're actually really, really ancient. They were like way before Christianity. And so these were like things that people said and songs that they sang that were like truth, like spiritual truth, and they were symbolic and they were metaphors. So if I think one of the things I've heard recently is the sheep recognize the voice of the shepherd, right? And so then I want to ask myself, where's my shepherd? Am I listening to that still soft voice inside that I recognize as my truest self, as my deepest self? Or am I thinking I'm one of those sheep running around like a crazy, right? And so that's the other piece, is sometimes we're avoiding those thoughts, but I agree. Yeah. But avoiding those thoughts also doesn't then give you access to the shepherd inside.
No, absolutely. And I think, again, I'm getting to the point of recognizing and not getting scared of that voice, right? Because the voice is like, it's covered.
The voice tells you to do things like move to the middle of nowhere and sit by a lake like we just did a few months ago, right? The voice it accelerates things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we wish you an opportunity to, of course, reflect and have the space where you can listen to that voice. And that space requires stillness and relaxation and groundedness.
Just permission to relax and rest.
Yeah.
Permission.
So with that, we will end it there. So until next time.
Smile more.
And worry less.